Good evening and welcome to the New Year edition of Fire Pot 80. At the outset, Team Fire wishes you a very happy new year. The year 2016 was an eventful year for Fire Pot 80. Earlier, Fire Pot 80 was known as Coffee at DBG, and it was in 2016 we rebranded it as Fire Pot 80. And it is in 2016 we got associated with NASCOM, and currently Firepot 80 is being listed as its official list of national events. And in 2016 we were able to handle most of the trending technologies of that time. We handled so many discussions on fast lane, test automation, machine learning, TensorFlow, big data, and many more. And in 2017, we expect it to be a much more eventful and wonderful year for Firepot 80, handling most of the trending technologies of the latest times. Today, it is the 44th edition of Firepot 80, and I take this opportunity to thank or to recognize the efforts and the hard work put in by the entire team behind Firepot 80. And we have come till this journey, or we have had such a successful journey only because of the support given by the amazing set of participants and the amazing speakers we have had in 2016. To all the new people, or to all the people who are new to Firepot 80, I hope that this is just a new beginning for your pursuit of learning and finding a group of your like-minded people, or people having your same interests. And for the regular attendees of Firepot 80, I thank all of them for your constant support and helping us build a close-knitted family of like-minded technology enthusiasts. Today, as usual, we start the Firepot 80 edition with the Techbites. So Techbites it's a quick update of the technological advances that has happened over the past 1 month. I invite my colleague, Mr. Murli, to handle the Techbites.
Thank you, Arnima. Happy New Year. Uh, so, yeah, yeah. Like she already told you, like TechBytes is all about, an update, giving an update on latest technological happenings. So we heard about drones delivering, packages or goods to suppliers, Amazon's drones. Like from that level to an advanced level, Amazon has got their patent for flying warehouses. So in near future, we can expect Amazon's this giant flying warehouses are delivering products for the particular customer. So anyway, that would be one of the key update when we are just starting the 2017. So it's like we have already seen in some science fiction movies some giant things and deploying machines and all. So we can see it in the future. Next one. So on the 50th day of demonetization, our PM has launched a new mobile applications. Most of us have just gone through it, I think. So it's called Beam. It's based in unified payments interface. Those who have a smartphone can start using this application. It's only now it's only available in Android. So the per day transaction limit is up to 10, not per transaction limit is like 10,000 rupees, and per day transaction limit is up to 20,000, the maximum which we can transfer in a day. So yeah, I think now it is one of the top list in most downloaded applications from Google Store. Docker delivers container to open source community. This is for open source community. And Docker is container is it's a key component in Docker. So they have announced that they are going to open source it. And the giant players like Alibaba Cloud, Amazon Web Services, Google, IBM, and Microsoft have already expressed their interest to contribute for this particular initiative. So Google and Elon Musk's artificial intelligence platform open for researchers again. I mean, so much news is coming for open source enthusiasts. Google's and Elon Musk's artificial intelligence platforms will be available for the interest parties, like those who are working on, those who are researching on artificial intelligence will be able to work with these kind of platforms. Then Bluetooth 5 is live. Like it's available already. They are giving some features like longer range, faster speed, larger broadcast message capacity, and all. So that's all for today's Tech Bites. Thank you so much.
It's 4 days from New Year, and what a way to kickstart the year with handling one of the most hottest technologies of 2017, the Internet of Things. The session Getting Connected with IoT will be led by Mr. Vijay Kumar M, CEO and MD Webyfy Infotech. He has a multifaceted career handling different roles: Director and CEO G Power Controls India, Vice President Operations Suntech Business Solutions, Vice President International Marketing Nest Group. He is passionate about IoT and has developed many technology products in this realm. His other areas of interest include business intelligence, product management, cloud computing, and testing. He has published several papers and has compiled several books on technology, maintenance, and development. I invite Mr. Vijay to handle the session.
You all a very happy new year. Hope this starts working. It's working, right? All right, great. Wish you all a very, very happy new year. And I'm very sure that 2017 is going to bring us a significant amount of changes, both in terms of doing business in the IT sector as well as with respect to technology. So to give a little brief about myself, I'm not a technologist like you. I'm not a programmer. I don't understand programming at all. And I only understand how to use a technology to, to create something valuable at the end of the chain. And now talking about Internet of Things, it's a very cliched word. That everybody talks about Internet of Things, and you talk about, you make a small little application and say that it is part of the Internet of Things. So now let us find out what is this Internet of Things all about, and then how it is going to affect. Fundamentally, this whole talk is going to be centered around how your life is going to be affected by this so-called Internet of Things and the technologies that are going to be enabling the Internet of Things. That is my intent. My intent is not to teach you technology, not to tell you about great things, but only to tell you that be prepared. The things are going to change very fast. Things are going to change drastically, and how those things are going to change and how it is going to affect your life. So it is more of understanding yourself and comparing yourself with respect to what you do today, rather than understanding more about technology, right? Thank you. So, so let me see what I'm going to talk to you about. Normally, when you go to different parts of the world and you say that, hey, what are you going to talk about? And basically, I'm going to talk about what is this IoT all about, what is impact on the technology shift, the new approach, how do you approach things differently, why it is disruptive, disruptive in terms of disruptive in technology, disruptive in jobs, disruptive in businesses, an impact on Indian IT businesses, and what the mega opportunity the Indian IT businesses got in this regard. And then what as Webyfy as a company, what do we do in a very small brief. And then finally, I talk about the last slide is the one which probably we'll have the maximum discussion is on the technologies to watch for. So the methodology is that I'm going to run through the slides. I'm not going to be, talking a lot. I'll run through the slides, and I would like you people to, imbibe what is there in the slide, and then after that you can ask me as many number of questions as possible, and if I'm capable of answering it, then I'll definitely do that. All right? That's a contract between us. Thank you. So, what does this IoT all mean? When you talk to Microsoft, they say that, oh, I have an Azure platform where you can actually program and then you put the stuff into my database or my data center and then do that. And then you see the Philips advertisement, somebody zips out a Apple phone or an Android phone and then does so many things to just switch on a light. I mean, I don't know whether that is to be IoT. And then you talk to Cisco, they say a lot about communication technologies. You talk to Intel, they talk about a lot of processors which are coming in. You talk to At Mill, they say that, oh, my microprocessors are IoT ready. But then how many people really talk about from end to end? What is exactly is this IoT? Is it just an Azure platform is IoT? Or is it Cisco systems are IoT? Or is it the hardware that is coming into is IoT? So let us find out what is this IoT about. The IoT is fundamentally means that you are going to get information from every nook and corner. And then you're going to process that information either locally or distributed. And then we are going to infer things about it and then pass on to other things. For example, suppose if I have a very simple thing, if I have my phone is there in my pocket and I have a GSM, I'm connected to a GSM network, and from my phone I connect to my home computer, and from my home computer I will connect to a small relay which will switch on my geyser. All right, a simple thing. So when I'm coming about 20 kilometers near my house, and when I'm going to go back home, so I put that I'm going home and I'm coming near 20 kilometers from my house, and I know that it's going to take another half an hour to reach home, my geyser automatically switches on. This is a very, very simple example of Internet of Things. Right. So there we have the sensors. We talk about a lot of sensors and actuators, and we connect those sensors and actuators to something just called a sensor hub. Then we have devices, a large number of devices that we connect, right from modems to printers to XYZ. And then you have stats. Actually, stats are basically, you have a modem, and the modem can actually give you some statistics, like what is the bandwidth that is available, how many things are connected to it, and what is the speed at which they are connected to it. They are the stats which is not directly measurable by the sensors, but you just get it from a device. Then we have inferencing, that you infer things. That when the door is open, and if the temperature of the room is high, then we know that the AC is getting, and the AC load is high. Then we send a message saying that, then we infer that the door is open, that is the reason why the door is open, and then we send a message to somebody that please go and close the door, or we make an announcement saying that please close the door. All right? And then we talk about the knowledge base, and all this knowledge is pushed into a knowledge base, and we will always go back into it and then start finding out whether this is the right thing or this is the wrong thing. And all these things happen in a particular location. And in that thing, we get all this information and we put it into an application processor. We have local storage, we have human interfaces, because if you are going to automate your home, then you need to have an interface by which you don't want to zip out your Android phone and switch on the light, right? I can always have a small little interface there where I can switch on the light by myself, or I even have a small switch there to switch on my light. I mean, there's no problem. And then all these things can exist in millions across the world. I mean, that's the difference. Till today, we used to write certain things for a particular application in a particular home. But then these things can happen in millions. They can any number of locations around the world. I mean, that is where the problem also happens. Because it's very easy to manage one, from my mobile phone to my geyser to be switched on, it's very easy, right? Suppose if I want to universalize it, then it's a different ball game altogether. Then you have communication systems. Now you know that the communication systems are multiplying like crazy. You have different, and I mean, I still remember when we were setting up a plant in Bangalore, probably about 18 years back, and one of the biggest conditions was to get a connectivity. And we were talking about 256 kbps line, which cost the earth in those days. And today, if I say the same thing, I think you will laugh at me, right? So the connectivity is no longer a problem, but different modes of communication is also there. And then, of course, the other end you have centralized monitoring, centralized data processing, data clouds, cloud computing, and things like that. Anyway, personally, I am not a person who is very much happy with cloud computing, because I feel that most of these biggies have actually invested very heavily into cloud computing, and so we are saddled to take it up on our shoulders. But actually, we really need not. To give you a small example, that probably among all of us, we may have probably a few terabytes of, at least a few, probably 1 terabyte of data with all of us put together, right? And suppose if we divide that, if we decide that we have a lot of storage space which is vacant. Suppose if we write a small program by which we decide that all our data is going to be stored amongst us in this group, do we really need a data center? Do we really need a cloud computing? We really don't need it. And that's something called, something you people need to start keeping in your mind. Right, coming back. Another thing which I want to really tell you is that the demarcation between the hardware and the software is vanishing. It's hardware is the new software, or the software is, and it is encompassing the hardware. Today, what's happening is that there is a huge amount of consolidation that is happening between the hardware and software. Previously, when I want to create a washing machine, what do? I create a whole circuitry, and then I need to put my program inside, and then it's an embedded program, and it starts working, right? Today, I can just use probably a 3.8, like one of your small, tiny microcontrollers. It will cost you about 200 rupees, and then you can put all your programs of a washing machine into it, and then possibly you can connect a small Wi-Fi or a Bluetooth chip into it, and you can control your washing machine with your mobile phone. It is that simple. So what exactly have I done here now? Previously, what I was doing is that I was deciding on my hardware based on my use. So my hardware is completely married and locked into the use. Today, it is not like that. Today, the hardware is very generic. I can use the same hardware for multiple purposes and for a multitude of applications. And the second thing is that, what we really require is when you create generic hardware, which can use multiple things, and what are you going to do? You need to do things on real time. Now, suppose if I use we have sensor hubs, and we have isolation devices and all those things that we have designed and created. Suppose in a particular terminal, somebody has, instead of connecting the door open and close switch, he has put a window open and close switch. Imagine a small house being monitored. It's a mistake that is done, and it is happening somewhere in San Francisco. It has already happened, and I'm controlling the thing from here, or I'm monitoring things from here. I cannot fly all the way to San Francisco and do that. Change it, correct? So my program should be ready to change it on the fly. It should be able to change the stuff so that it doesn't matter. Even if the terminals are changed, I'm going to change it automatically through my software, so that even the embedded system, which is going to monitor this thing, is also automatically changed. So there is seamlessness. The second thing is that suppose if I'm measuring the temperature of a room, and I use the same hardware to connect to, same sensor and hardware to connect it, and then you say that, okay, if you want to manage the air conditioning, you need to measure the temperature only once in 2 minutes, right? Or probably 5 minutes. Even 5 minutes is good enough. You decide it. But if you are going to control probably an oven, you may measure the temperature at a much shorter period. But how can I use the same hardware for doing the same thing? If my software is going to be rigid, built into the hardware, it's not possible. So we need to create a software system which is flexible and which can be updated in real time over a period of time. Over the geographical area. Because the same hardware may be used for measuring the temperature in one place, of the room in one place, and the same hardware may be used for measuring the engine temperature in another location, right? The third one is we have an integrated multi-platform software. It is no longer, somebody says that, one problem which I have is when I ask people to come for interview to my place. Incidentally, we recruit only crazy people in my place, who think very differently. So when people come and ask, and they say that, oh, I'm a Java programmer, so I'm a .NET programmer. I think gone are those days. We no longer can constrict ourselves or restrict ourselves to saying that I'm only a Java programmer, I'm only a .NET programmer, I'm only a C# programmer. No, it is not possible, because to create one single system, you cannot work with one single platform. You need to actually integrate multiple types of platforms to get into it, right? And then the second is that, I don't know how many of you realize that about 4 years back, you had your Android phones, correct? And you had to buy, probably about 6 years back, you had Android phones, and you had to buy most of the software by yourself. You had to pay for it. Today, do you really buy any software? I don't think so. So what really happened? The softwares which are required for you has been completely what? Factory made. And this is exactly what is going to happen in this world over a period of time. The world is on the process of standardization, and the software is going to be factory made. So this is one drastic change that which will happen in this world in the next probably 5 to 10 years time. And the next one is that consolidated hardware. When you talk about microcontrollers, you all know about microcontrollers, right? And microcontrollers, it does only one thing. It can take inputs and do some processing and give an output. But then how about, suppose if I want a system by which I want to measure the illumination level in this room, I want to measure the temperature in this room, I want to measure the humidity in this room, and I want to measure probably a current input terminal or a voltage terminals and things like that. Can't I have one single chip which will actually do all that? Because then it will be a universal chip, right? So a large number of hardware companies are actually doing things by which they are going to consolidate the hardware into a single chip. All right. Coming back, what is this new approach? Can somebody tell me about, the new approach is you ship behavior, you don't ship software. This is something which is very serious. I'm not going to explain this. It's a point I think you people need to really start thinking about it. We no longer ship software. We basically ship behavior. So I would like you people to start thinking about it, because this is a very, very serious thing that is going to change your life. So let's see what happens. We are going to move completely away from conventional project life cycles, because it is not possible for us to create products and projects, and then we have a, what do you call it, user specification document, customer ADD, BDD, ABCD. I don't know how many documents that you create. And then why do we create all this document? Because most of the Indian IT business model is based, revenue is based on the number of man hours that you spend. It is no longer the case. It is no longer the case. So we have to move away from conventional project life cycles. The second is imperative programming. We need to move away from imperative programming. We need to look at other methods of programming. I don't know how many of you you all know about object-oriented programming. I don't know really how many people really use object-oriented programming to the maximum effectiveness. I really don't know how many of you know about reactive programming. Reactive programming is a data flow programming. There are about 2 or 3 different kinds of programming which are functional programming. It's completely mathematical, and you make a function, and then you start using that. Conventional programming, the days are numbered. We cannot use standardized sequential sets of instructions to being given, and then that set of instructions are going to be used for running something. I definitely feel that the conventional programming days are over. It is time for the rest of the things to take over. And after the talk is over, I think you will also understand why the conventional programming days are over. So the next one is enterprise patterns. The enterprise patterns are also changing. I don't know how many of you heard about Industry 4.0. It is one of the aftermaths of IOT that is going to come in. That is, if I decide that I'm going to increase my production from 1,000 units to 2,000 units in the next 6 months, and this thing, is it possible for my entire factory to be reorganized, including my supply chain? This is the real impact of IoT that is going to happen in the next few years' time. So you really don't have to reprogram it. You don't have to go there and change your business. You don't have to redo the orders, nothing. The system has to take care by itself and then start moving. So, and the last one I always talk to people about is RDBMS. I think all of you must be using RDBMS, right? How many of you use document database? How many of you heard about document database? It's very simple. When you're talking about the Internet of Things, which is going to be there, you cannot wish away with it, and you're part of it. You can't help it. Today, I'm going to measure temperature. Let us talk about the old example of measuring temperature, and the temperature is being streamed at a rate of, let us talk about a control system, an engine monitoring thing, which is a critical engine, and so I measure the temperature every, 50 milliseconds. Imagine the amount of data that is going to land up in your place. And imagine I have about 20 engines in one location, and I have about 20 measuring points in each location. So how many are there? 400, right? 400 sensors are going to pump you with temperature data every 50 milliseconds. Do you think your RDBMS can handle it? You can't handle it. Second thing, you imagine that you are RDMM scan Angel. I'm asking you to imagine that. And then tomorrow I wrote another program or another system somewhere else, and then I'm asking you, can you please send me your data to me? Your data temperature structure is in an XYZ format, and you are sending across to me. What happens? It is in some ABC format. So what happens? It's very simple. The two will not talk. To be very frank, whatever little experience I've had about the ERP implementation, 90% of the ERP implementation fail only because the data don't match. You have one data structure here, another data structure here, and they don't talk to each other. When you talk about the document database, such a thing does not exist at all. All the restrictions of RDBMS can be, we can overcome those restrictions by using document databases. And second thing is that suppose imagine such a huge amount of data is coming in. And I write a small rule saying that only if the temperature variation is say plus or minus 0.3 degrees Celsius, then I'm going to store the data. Otherwise, I'm not going to store the data. I'm going to actually reduce the total amount of data that is going to be going into my system. But then the problem is, how will I reconstruct it? I want to draw a graph after that. How will I reconstruct the graph? I don't have the data in between, right? Because I only stored whatever that is, the changes that are there. A lot of such problems that do exist when you are going to manipulate the data, store the data, and things like that. So I don't know how many of you have really started thinking about it. And these are the things that you are going to face when you are going to face Internet of Things. What is the new approach? One thing I want to tell you, I mean, as a businessman, what is my intent? My intent is to increase my profitability so that I can make surplus, so that I can put it back into my company and my company can flourish even better. It's a very simple thing, isn't it? Or I can give better salaries to the people who are working for us, correct? Suppose if I continue using manpower-based billing, what am I going to happen? My mindset is going to be in such a way that the more manpower I use, the more billing I get. But that is not going to be the same, because tomorrow your competitor is going to come out with some kind of automation by which your product cost is much less than what you are selling. Then will you have the business there? You will not have the business there. So now you need to start thinking about how will I improve my processes. One of the best ways of improving the processes is what you call as componentization. That is, I create components. So imagine that, I mean, I want to give you a very small and probably it's not a very good example, but I still give you an example. It's called, suppose if you write a small program for sending emails, all right? And the program only does just pick up the data from the bus or from a location, or it is from a port. From a port, you stream some in a particular format into it, you just pick it up and then say email. If it's not able to send the email, if there is some bounce back, it will send it back to another port. And that's it. This is a simple component. Can't I use this anywhere? I can use the same component. I need to make only one component, and I can send the emails in a school, I can send the email in an office, I can send in my own office, I can use it anywhere, right? This is a very small example and probably not a very correct example of componentization. We can have multiple layers of componentization. And one of the greatest advantage of componentization is that these components can be built to be intelligent by itself. For example, this email sending machine is an intelligent machine. It's a machine, right? It's a small machine which sends in the emails. So that machine is intelligent enough to accept the data, send it, and if it is not, then send it back to somebody. I mean, that intelligence is built in. If that intelligence is there, can't I assemble these components to make solutions? Only using configurations. What does it mean? You no longer will have to write programs. That means your programming will become obsolete. I mean, not obsolete, I'm sorry. The programming will not be required as much as you require right now. The second one is there is seamlessness of embedded software and the other software. Actually, I want to tell you another thing. Can you imagine, my intention is not to scare you, but to tell you about what exactly is going to happen to this world in the next 3 to 4 years' time. Imagine that, when I say that if you talk about a virtual software cloud, can you imagine what it is? That means the software doesn't exist anywhere. It exists only in the virtual space. In the sense that suppose if I have about, say, 200 systems in the field, which is being controlling so many things, and I want to change different things, what do? I only change one of the softwares in some place, and everywhere else it gets updated. It is not a software distribution system. This is not a software distribution system. This is something which actually the system starts learning where there is a change and it updates itself. Right, anyway, I don't want to confuse you more. So then second one is that we build, as I told before, that we have to start building generic multiple application hardware, so that we can use the same hardware for multiple applications, and then only by changing the software or changing the different systems that we go into, create multiple this thing. And this last one, as I said, about continuous integration, that we need to, it's a continuous integration is that even if I create something today, and tomorrow I want to add probably 10 more sensors into it, or probably another cluster of monitoring devices. I cannot write a separate software for it. I cannot change this particular system. So it has to be continuously integratable. That is, as many systems that are coming into the place, I keep on integrating that one by one without changing my software. Today it is not possible if you go in the conventional manner of development. And again, business in Industry 4.0. I think I don't want to go deep into business Industry 4.0, because this is something which I would like everybody to read. Go into the internet and start reading about Industry 4.0, because this is something which is going to affect all your lives. It's fundamentally what it is going to do is integration of hardware and software, which is, as I told before. The next is move away from conventional enterprise approach. It's going to be automated many levels. Move away from manpower-based revenue. It has to move away from long-term projects, because the dynamics of the business is so fast. Like, for example, that, I'll come to that in the last slide. How the dynamics of technology changes. And another big problem that we are facing is that in the morning the boss has got an idea of how to do certain things, and then he wants it to be converted into a product tomorrow morning. But if I go for this ADD and design documents and pseudocode and all kinds of things and come back, and probably it'll take another 6 months for it to happen, which he cannot afford to do. So the cycle time between idea to implementation is going to be very short. That is going to be the demand of your customer, which is going to be directly on you. How does it impact the IT industry in India? This is something which I think we should start thinking, and especially not from, I would rather think that I would add a few CEOs sitting in front of me and some government officials sitting in front of me, because this is something which is very critical. This kind of technology changes, and this kind of approach changes, these kind of implementation changes, and this kind of changes from the customers, how is it going to impact our Indian industry? The first and the foremost thing is that we have to change from a manpower-based business to a technology-based business, because manpower-based business cannot run for long. This is an absolute requirement when this technology changes happen. The second one is, in India, there is practically no hardware component manufactured. That is, if you talk about any ICs that you want, you have to import it. And now, whereas China has gone strides ahead in manufacturing several things, and probably many of you must be using Chinese chips, and especially for Wi-Fi and things like that, and they are fairly good. The last one is that there is a fragmented approach to technology management in India. We have a lot of agencies. Incidentally, I have been trying to contact NASSCOM because they have said that they are doing something on IoT and all that, and I made at least about 50 phone calls. And other than my friend here, Dinesh, who is in Trivandrum NASSCOM, who is very proactive, practically nothing else happened. And everybody talks about startups and startups and startups. Startups cannot create an integrated system which is required for IoT. Startups can create components, Startups can create fantastic ideas which are converted into small time or very limited application components. But startups cannot create sensor to analytics to storage end-to-end solutions, because this requires probably 300 to 400 different technologies working together. So we need to have a serious look at what we really do today in terms of managing technologies. The next one is that we have highly concentrated and a skewed approach to development. If anybody wants to start a startup, I have 5,000 startups in Bangalore. But how many of people talk about how many of them have failed? In India, we only talk about successes, right? We all want success stories. But if you ask me, I want only failure stories. For a very simple reason that when I start up a company and when I'm going to face a problem, I would rather learn about how somebody has failed so that I'm prepared. And if that failure is happening, can I get a solution from somebody? Somebody recommends a solution that such a failure happens, this is the solution by which you can get out of that. We need to have a different approach to it so that the startups and other things, because the skewed systems are pretty difficult. For example, I don't know, you are all here. How many of you can actually have a direct access to VCs in Trivandrum? I don't think practically nobody is there. And if you ask for a VC funding in Trivandrum, they'll say that, hey, you're from Trivandrum. I don't think I'll be able to come to Trivandrum and give you something. And otherwise, you come to Bangalore. I mean, this is not good enough. The next is, we have actually a very low competitive environment for us to fight with China. China is way ahead in terms of hardware. And I don't know, for some reason, they're fairly bad in software. I don't know why. I mean, it should not be the case, but they're fairly bad in software. But that is an area where we can fill in. But then I don't know how many of us are getting enlightened to do that. And the next one is the fast changing technology environment. Every day the technology environments are changing. The landscape is changing very, very fast. Then now let us see what is the bright part of it. I told you a lot of things which are not sounding very nice, right? Which is a little scary, which is this. But then let's now talk about what is the bright side. The bright side is that the Internet of Things is going to double its value from $3.1 trillion to $7.1 trillion. It's almost more than double. And the good news is that it is going to, the majority of this development is going to happen in the Asia Pacific region. So we have a huge market which is unimaginably big in front of us. The second one is, we already have fantastic. I'll come back to you on the next slide, please. Thank you. There is a huge chunk of trained manpower in this country. So it is very easy for us to transform. The only thing is that you need to be informed. I mean, this one of the reasons I'm standing in front of you is to inform you. This is my role actually today. So the next one is, India has already got a fantastic brand value as an IT, because I remember when I was in Amsterdam in the airport, Schiphol airport, somebody approached me with, old lady came to me with a laptop and told me that, no, I cannot enter into the internet, can you help me? And I asked her, what is it? No, I forgot my password. and no, you're from India, you can change this, you can fix it. So this is a fantastic thing. We have such a phenomenally good brand value. People believe us. They believe us. That's very important. And the next one is, today I'm very happy that the government is giving significant importance to emerging technologies. At least when they talk about Digital India, at least they're talking about Digital India, and they are definitely doing a lot of it to make it happen. Whether the coordinated efforts are happening or not, that's a separate question altogether, but something is happening. And the last is, the mega IT businesses are also changing their attitude of running manpower supply houses to slowly changing into technology supply houses. So this is very important. So all these things are phenomenally good things for the IT industry in India. And with the kind of market that we are talking about, almost $4 trillion business in the world, I don't think the present manpower is not enough. We actually need to double the manpower in this country to actually supply and the requirement for the world, provided we become the IOT capital of the world. No, I'm not joking. I'm very serious about what I'm saying, which you will understand in the next slide. This would answer your question. The number of internet things, according to IDC in 2014, is going to grow up to 28 billion installations. And you can see that it is going to literally jump almost double from this current year. And then you can talk about revenue. You can see that in the Asia Pacific region is going to mark the maximum growth of almost $1 trillion to $2.6 trillion. It's almost more than double. It's almost 200% jump. So this is a very, very good news. Now, I talked a lot about things. I talked about, I scared you a little bit, and then after that, I talked to you about the opportunities that we have. And if you are able to change, if you're able to study, if you're able to read, if you're able to get immersed into the technological changes, I don't think you will have to worry. You have nothing to worry. You have nothing to worry. But if you don't read, if you are not ready to change, if you're not, if you're going to get stuck in wherever you are, then you have a lot to worry. So now I want to tell you about what we do. So Webyfy is a company which has been established quite a few years back, and we only do research and development in technology side. We don't do any service business. We don't do products for anybody. We don't create IP for somebody else. Nothing. We only create technology and technology components. So we make both hardware and software. And the hardware and software are very generic components. And we have created almost around 20 odd different hardware things, which are like, for example, optical isolators, sensor hubs, analog isolators, and blah, 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 a lot of stuff, which can actually assemble together to create multitudes of products. And we have created a technology stack called IRMAX, that is Intelligent Remote Management stack. This is a core technology stack which is completely configuration driven. That means if I want to create a solution, I do not need to write any program. All I need to do is to write a configuration file and write a rule engine which will which the system will understand and implement. I can write a rule saying that if the temperature is more than 20 degrees, switch off the air conditioner. I mean, I can write it in simple, plain English, and my system will understand and execute it. And now we are also working on fuzzy logic systems by saying that if the temperature is high, switch on the air conditioner. I don't know how many of you are working on fuzzy logic systems. Fuzzy logic is far more complex than the normal ones, and we're working on that. The next one is that we have developed this particular technology stack can actually integrate thousands of systems in real time. It is not just restricted to one, and we have about 250 systems integrated, which are monitoring somewhere around 180 to 190 parameters in real time, which is happening right now. I mean, which is going on right now. And then the last one is that we are actually transforming ourselves. You know, from a research organization. Of course, the research organization is going to remain as it is, because we still have a lot of new technologies to be created. We are also forming some new companies for which we can actually create a lot of solutions for the end customers, especially on the IoT stream. So we are in the process of tying up with multiple companies so that those companies can be the mouthpieces of our technology with their customers. Just want to give you a small example of, this is one of the interfaces of ATM monitoring system, and actually we monitor somewhere around 200 odd parameters in an ATM, even though it is not required. It is like making a 1-ton crane to lift about 100 kilos. We have done it because we want to prove our technology. And this particular screen, everything is real time. You know, if anything happens in any place, this will change. The videos are real time, and this can have actuations, alarms, speed, And the data comes in from multiple sources. It doesn't come from a single source. So any changes happening in any source, this particular screen will change. And to tell you the interesting part is that this screen we have created without writing a single line of code. It is completely configuration driven. So tomorrow you want me to change everything, you want to add another 20 more parameters, I can just do it like this. It may probably take me a few hours just to change it. I mean, even the graphs, everything is real time. This is one of those video screens which you normally see, but again, here also it is an intelligent screen. We can actually write rules to show what is to be shown and what is not to be shown and things like that. And this is another thing that we have created, that is when we create, and especially for Internet of Things, it is basically installations in different places. Like you have a lot of sensors and we have a lot of actuators and things like that in different locations. So these locations, you cannot go there and send a experienced person like you to the field and ask you to go and configure it and change the parameters and put the stuff in place. So what we do is, we have created an automated installation system. So the entire installation is automated and the installation results are actually pumped into the mobile phone of the person who is sitting in front of the system. So this is the screen for that, and in addition to that, this is also used for maintenance. It actually automatically monitors all the parameters of the system and actually sends out the information. One of the few technologies that we have created in this thing, I want to just tell you about being a technology company. We have created a small little technology which actually took us 6 months. You know what it does? Normally when you have a system installed in the field, how do you know that it actually functions? It sends you a heartbeat, right? Once in a while it sends you a few bytes of data. And then you know that it is working and it's up and running. Suppose if I have about 50 sensors or 50 actuators and machines and things like that, or say 100 machines which are lying there, how will I know that all of them are actually working? And if I want to send a heartbeat from every one of them, imagine the total traffic that I have to take into consideration and the amount of server power that I need to understand that these things are actually working, correct? It's very difficult. So we have actually created a small little technology by which with just 1 kilobyte of data, we can actually monitor 1,000 status information. Just 1,000 status information. So the reason I told this to you is that it is time that you people started re-engineer your minds to become technologists rather than simple coders or programmers. It is time, it's high time. And these are some of the hardwares that we have created. I mean, just to give you an example, this particular hardware on the other side, it's a very small PCB. This can handle 76 input outputs. It's only about 12 centimeters by 8 centimeters or so. It can handle about 76 inputs. And the reason I want to tell this to you is to tell you that a small company like ours, sitting in Trivandrum, probably unknown, and we want it to be unknown, are doing things like this. So what people like you can do probably 10 times more than what we can do. And this is another optical isolator. This is an analog optical isolator, which is actually capable of handling 32 inputs. All right, now we come to the most interesting part of the whole talk. So I'm going to stop now. Before I get into this, I want you to ask me any number of questions as you want. I know it has been a very boring talk because I've been talking about technology. You came here thinking that you will learn about, technology, but I came here to tell you the changes in technology. I've been talking about things which you probably are not very familiar. So it doesn't matter, but at some time in your life you need to learn and you need to hear, right? So please, ma'am. Actuator is something which actuates something. Suppose if there is a valve, so I give a 12-volt supply, the coil is there, the valve opens. That's it. That is, actuator gives out a signal. A sensor gives into a signal. Anything? Yeah. That's what I said. What we do is we create technology components. And we create the technology components in such a way that it can be assembled. The fundamental concept of this actually came in when I visited the Lego factory in UK, long time back. There, if you see the Lego factory, if you've been to Lego factory, with the small little building blocks, they make mind-boggling things, isn't it? So why can't, as a software person, as a technologist, how can I not create these little components and then put it on top of each other and then make it, right? This is exactly what we do. This is exactly what we do. Yes. Yes.
And tell that every component is going to work.
Yes.
We done that.
No, to be very frank, I am not a programmer, so I will not be able to explain the details of how the configuration files are being assembled. Yes. Of course, the components are software components. Yeah. See, absolutely. As I gave the example of the email component. You write an email component by which you can accept data in a specific manner, or you write something in such a way that in certain variations are also accepted by the component. And then all you need to do, your other component which wants to send the email is only point it to the port. You want to send an email, push the data to the port. That's it. Of course the software is there. I said the components are all software. All the components are software-based components. And these software-based components are integrated through configurations. See, the fundamental intent is, again, when you talk about IoT systems, you have to create applications without any time delay. So how will you create applications without time delay? See, another component we'll talk about, your probably things which you would understand. You write a RDBMS software, right? All of you must be writing RDBMS software. Nowadays, when you want to make an RDBMS software, you put in a data input screen, you put the data. I'm only talking about the difference in approach, how your mind will think differently, all right? You put in a data and you send the data to the backend, you validate it and bring it back and say that it is validated, and then you go to the next step. That's a normal way that you do, correct? All of you must be doing it, right? That. I'm asking you, why do you want to do that? You are wasting your bandwidth. You have a fantastic machine in the front end. You are using an i7 processor or i5 processor or an i3 processor laptop in front of you. You are wasting the processing capability of that machine. You are wasting the bandwidth. You are loading your server, correct? These three things happen. Instead of that, if all your validation data is zipped into probably a JSON file or something like that, and pushed to the front end when your system is loaded, and all your validations happen in the front end, and you push the data back to the back end only when it is okay, what will happen? If the server can be used for 10 customers or 100 customers, you can multiply it by another 100, right? Because the server is not loaded at all. The server is going to be used only for sending the data and storing it, correct? It doesn't do any processing. Does it do any processing? It doesn't do any processing because your entire processing is pushed to the front end. Now, what I am trying to tell you is the change in attitude of programming. The change in attitude of approaching. This is technology. What is the definition of technology? Technology is nothing but a methodology of doing something. You understand? Suppose if I say that the methodology of this is the way you take the cup and put it here, this is technology. This is a methodology of removing the lid and putting on the table. That's it. So with that particular definition, if you can change the way you think, I'm very sure that if you are able to write a program like this, your customers are going to be very happy because their server sizing is going to come down drastically. Isn't it? Another thing is that, another simple thing, you all work on XML. I know XML has gone out of fashion now. Imagine a JSON file. Imagine that imagine you are doing a school management software, right? And you are putting all the data into that of a child. Why can't I just create one text file where I keep all the data of a child and I zip it and put it into one little database? That is enough, right? And if I want to edit the change, or I want to edit or change the data of the child, all I do is what? I send the text file to the front end, and I do the changing and I send it back. Isn't it? It is so easy, right? It's not easy. Actually, you do it. It is very easy. because because you are because it is the way you think. It is not difficult at all. It is so easy to do. So what I am requesting all of you is that, since whatever I have shown in my slides are not things which I am doing. What I have shown in the slides are things which is happening to this world, which belongs to you and me. Whether you like it or not, it is going to happen. So it is time that we started thinking differently. We started approaching things differently. The other day, one of the schools approached me to find out whether they can do a new generation teaching, and they want a school management software. I told them very clearly that I'm not here to give you any software. I don't want to give you. And he said, "Sir, don't you want to do any business?" And I said, "No, I don't want this business. Because if I want to do a relationship with a customer, I want to see that the customer is able to create something which will last him for a significant time and make the customer stand out from other schools." If this small change in thought process can be brought in our heads, possibly the way we do work will completely change. This is my request to all of you. I came here this evening to talk to you, to request you, probably in bended knees, because my time is over. It is the years are for you, to save this country by thinking differently. And I'm not joking. All right, let's come to this. But any more questions? Yeah. Doesn't matter. I think. No. Yeah.
The current set of Wi-Fi routers for
Excellent question. I was thinking that somebody should be asking me this question. We Indians are really wonderful. We want to do the best in the world, but at the same time, we do the worst in the world also. I don't know how many of you are familiar with CGNet, Carrier Gate Net. See, what's happening now is that all our telecom providers, they think that we are all people who want to download movies and see. They think that we only want to listen to music. We want to visit web pages, that's all. But that is not IoT. When I want to put an IoT system in place, what I want, I will put an IP camera in my house and see what my baby is doing. So actually, I need to access that particular point. So what these people do with the CGNAT is that with a single IP address, they provide access to probably 2,000, 3,000 people, so that they conserve the IP address. And it is very easy for them to move over to IP6, but they are not doing it. So in India, on the customer side, because I am facing it, if I put a system, I cannot access the system from outside because it is a CGNAT based system. I think I answered your question. So in India, that is the problem. But with respect to whether it's a luxury or not, I would rather say that it's very simple. When the computers came in, it was almost 4.5. I worked on computers which are card punching machines, and I don't know whether you've even seen that ever. And then after that, it came with a double floppy disk thing, which cost about 4.5 lakh rupees when it came to the market, IBM machine. And 4.5 lakh rupees is, at that time, probably my monthly salary was about 3,000 rupees or 2,000 rupees. So you can imagine how many times my monthly salary is a computer. And today, what is the cost of computer is how many times your monthly salary. It's probably less 1 month salary, or even less than 1 month salary, maybe half a month salary. All right. This is what is going to happen to IoT. IoT is unstoppable. You can't do anything about it. See, for example, I'm actually talking to some of the manufacturers saying that, say, for example, washing machines. Suppose if I have a IoT enabled washing machine, even before your washing machine is having problem, the service man will come to your house because he will get all the parameters which have been monitored from the machine in his server and say that this particular machine in this particular location is having problem. Another company which we are in touch with and talking to is about all these earth movers. These earth movers, you don't know where they are. So all I need to do is just have a few sensors connected to it. And another big problem they have is that they put the diesel and half the diesel gets stolen. And that's really happened. So he wants to find out how much the machine is running and how much diesel it is consuming. And then where it is. So all I need to put is a small GPS sensor and put the GSM sensor and then transmit the data. Correct? Your car, I would like to get my geyser on before I come into this thing. It is inevitable. It is going to happen. You can't stop it. Another thing, if you talk about building automation system, probably about 2 years back, it used to be sold at somewhere around 10 to 15 lakhs of rupees. A simple switch on, switch off lights, correct? Today, how much is it? 1 lakh rupees? I think you can, for 1 lakh rupees, you can get a building automation or a simple basic building automation system in the market, isn't it? And probably by next year, it is going to drop down to 25,000 rupees. When I was doing condition monitoring using triaxial accelerometers, which used to be fairly big, it used to cost about 4.5 lakh rupees for one sensor. Today, I still use triaxial accelerometers to measure movements and things like that. You know how much it costs? $0.6. How much? 50 rupees? 100 rupees maximum? So the cost is going to come down drastically, fundamentally because the numbers are going to go up. The number of sensors that are going to be used and other things that are going to be used is going to go up. So the cost is going to drop drastically. And I'm very sure that the middle class will be very happy to install a large number of this thing. But there is another problem with respect to security. How many of you are aware of DDNS, dynamic DNS? And how many of you know that the DDNS is the most insecure thing that you can use? That you tell me a protocol and I can access any IP camera. I mean, not me, I'm talking about a 4th standard child can access it. It's no big deal. And there are so many, in this meeting, I don't know whether it is correct on my part to talk, but normally what we do is when we get a hardware, we actually dissect the hardware and we go deep into it and what happens inside. In one of the hardwares, in one of the routers, we found out that there were backdoors already built in. And that is if I use the password, ID and password, I can get into the router from anywhere. It's already built in. So it is our responsibility now is to start thinking differently and start learning a lot more and start working on these things. So that we create value, we create. And one more thing, let me tell you, gentlemen, if you think that it is the era of IT is going to be lasting for another few years, no, I think it is slowly coming down. And the pace will increase. But the next era is that of agriculture. I don't know how many of you have read Ignited Minds by Dr. Abdul Kalam. If you have not read, I think I request all of you to read it. It is time that we give back the agricultural land back to the nature because the number of people are increasing. So the nature requires more, forests to actually sustain us. So we need to give it back. How will you give it back? By multiplying the productivity of our agricultural land. And the multiplication of the productivity of our agricultural land can happen only if technology is instilled into it. Correct? And we start thinking differently. A simple thing, suppose if I put a number of plants on this area, say it is 100, suppose if I tilt it like this, can't I plant more? Isn't it? So it's the new ideas are required, the new technologies are required, and IoT is going to be a major driving factor in the agriculture field. The agriculture area should actually multiply the productivity up to at least 1.5 to 2 times in the next decade. Otherwise, it will not be able to sustain the kind of pressures of demand which is put on it. And now let me get back to these technologies. How many of you have heard about physical web? This is something which is going to affect every one of you sitting in this room. Yeah. Break. All right, no problem. 10 minutes. Take 20, I think they're already board stiff. No problem. You ask me 100.
Okay, so while you're taking your coffee break, we'll have a quiz. We'll have a quiz session. Okay, basic technology questions. So if you know the answer, you can just raise your hands, and if it turns out to be the correct one, you'll be getting some goodies from Fire. Okay. Fine. Okay, so the first question is, uh, okay, so the first question is, we are familiar with Honda, right? So this particular car company, it developed the world's most advanced humanoid robot. So what's the name of this robot? Yeah, correct. So what's the name?
Amal, I'm near with you.
There's a pen. So the next question, this is the mascot of image editor, which is correct answer. No, no, no. Actually, the one the at the back. Okay, Jim. Okay, he actually raised his hands first. Wait, another question. What is this mascot called? What is the name of this mascot? That is a question, actually. This is Jim. This is the official mascot of Jim. What is the name of this mascot? I'll give you a clue. The name of this mascot is actually the name of a human, like of a famous person. A human. Sorry? Wilbur. Who told that? Okay. Okay, so you Googled? No. Okay, so Deepu. Okay, you can just pass this. So that's a pen. Actually, the question was the name of the mascot. Okay, so the next question. We are all familiar with the T9 feature of Nokia, right? What is the T9 feature of Nokia? Keyboard. Yeah. Okay, keyboard. Text on 9 keys, fine. It is predictive text, right? So that is Nokia's feature is called as T9. And what is the equivalent feature on Motorola? Those who know the answer, just raise your hands. What is the equivalent T9 feature in Motorola? Okay, I'll give you a clue. This particular feature, normally these names are more popular, like are more similar to Apple name, like iPhone, iPad, iTunes. It's similar. It's really similar. If you hear this, we'll immediately connect with Apple and not with Motorola. Anyone? Just wild guess. Okay, another clue. Okay, the first one is that. The next one is whenever there is a particular dance form which is similar to this name. Like, or another thing is when you listen to a particular music, we do this with our legs or whatever it is. Sorry? No. The correct answer is the first Apple clue plus this, that. Anything? Okay, maybe we'll withdraw the question. The answer is ITAP. The equivalent feature. Okay, you said that answer. Okay. You could have raised your hands. So T9 for Nokia and for Motorola it is ITAP. Okay, who founded Microsoft? Bill Gates. Now the question is, he had a co-founder. What is the name of him? Okay, yeah. Alan. What Alan? Actually, he told the right answer, so I'll give the pen to him. So what's your name? Yeah. Shamir. Okay, which company? Okay. So Microsoft was co-founded by Paul Allen. So another question, very easy. So those who know the answer, just raise your hands. Don't give out the answer, okay? What is the name of the home automation system or the AI system Mark Zuckerberg created for his home? Don't tell me, only one hand. Okay. Jarvis. Okay, that's the right answer. Did you actually hear me discussing the question? Okay. So now, എവിടെ പ്രൈസ് കൊടുക്കാം പ്രൈസ് ആർക്ക് പ്രൈസ് കൊടുക്കാം. Okay, so now the last question. Mm, last year, Adobe actually they released a particular tool for a UX tool. It actually released. Let me complete the question, and Muse is not the right answer. What is the name of the tool? Adobe had actually developed or they released a tool for UX. So what is the name of the particular tool? Sorry? Actually, the answer is there in the name of the company plus the expansion of UX plus everything. That is the clue. That's it. UX? Adobe? UX? No designers who. Adobe UX designer. Okay, well, maybe this question I'll give you the answer. The answer is Adobe Experience Design. So that's it for the quiz, and now we can actually take a 360-degree photograph. So Deepu. Yeah, Facebook. Okay, so that's it. I think Mr. Vijay can continue with the session.
Shall we start? എവിടെയാ? ഓ, എവിടെ? കാണാനില്ല, അത് ചോദിച്ചു. ഇത് തന്നെയാ, ഇത് തന്നെയാ. അതല്ലേ? ഓൾറൈറ്റ്. താങ്ക് യു. Well, after the long, boring session on technology and how it is going to affect your life and all that, I'm going to take you to the next level of discussion, that is on the emerging technologies, which is going to affect you very shortly. It is not going to take much time. The first one is, as I told before, it is purpose-built hardware. When you are going to roll out IoT systems, if you really start looking at the industry in general, and suppose you look at your house, in most of the room, what do you want? You want an illumination sensor, you want a color sensor, you want a temperature sensor, you want a humidity sensor, you want to have possibly some vibration sensor, or a triaxial accelerometer if I put it on a air conditioner to find out whether it is getting stolen or whether it is having excessive vibrations and things like that. So we can actually put all those things together into a single chip, and then a consolidated hardware can be created. So this is something which is going to have another disruptive action, especially on the hardware companies in the country, where the hardware companies they sit and make. I know a lot of young people have started a lot of startups making these kind of boards, and they're starting selling it, and they may land into some trouble with this. The second one is about physical web. How many of you have heard about physical web? How many of you have read about it? Because this is supposed to be one of the hottest thing in the world today. How many of you have heard about physical web? I just want to tell you what I'm thinking. Suppose if I'm standing here in front of you, right? And you're sitting there, right? How do you know who I am? You have no way. Suppose if I transmit an information which is picked up by your mobile phone, and that mobile phone automatically connects to the web, and my resume is downloaded into your mobile phone, then you know me, right? It's very simple, correct? This is going to be called, this is called the physical web in one way. That means, you heard about BLE? How many of you heard about BLE? Yeah, I think Tata Elxsi people, they have definitely heard about BLE. BLE is Bluetooth Low Energy, which is an open, I think you can say the protocol which is supported by Google and others, and now there's a lot of Nordic Semiconductors and others have come out with small tiny BLE chips. We make something which is called beacons. So what it does is that with a small tiny thing which is only as big as a 50 paise coin, with a 50 paise sized, I think 2030 cell underneath, and it can transmit information up to 2 years. So what it basically does is, it is just like an RFID tag, but the RFID tag is inert. That means how the RFID works, I send out a signal or a kind of power source, it gets energized, and with that energy it sends a signal back, or I read something. There's a couple of ways we can do it. So in this case, there is already an energy source inside it, so it will start transmitting the information. There are two fundamental protocols that are followed in that. One is the Edition protocol, which is propagated by Google, and the other is the iBeacon protocol, which is propagated by Apple. And iBeacon is very restrictive, so people are slowly moving into Edition. So what it actually does is that it actually sends out information saying that I am so-and-so. So for example, if I put a small beacon on a bus, and if I connect to a web page, and in the web page, against the bus ID, I tell the route number, isn't it? So what happens? When the bus reaches in front of me, the bus will transmit that ID to me, and BLE is an always-on program. So the mobile will automatically pick up the signal. It will open the web page for the particular bus, and it will tell me that this particular bus goes to this place. And I put intelligence into my software by saying that I am standing in Technopark and I want to go to probably to Quailon, and this bus, whether it goes there or not. Isn't it? It is that simple. Imagine if I use this beacon everywhere. I can make this table intelligent because the table can talk to me. I can put it in a parking meter. The parking meter can talk to me. I can put it in front of a machine, and the machine can tell me that my ID is this. My tactile XC people, they have the biggest problem going and talking to their exchanges because they don't know the make of the exchanger, the year of the manufacturing, and the kind of spares that they can use. So as soon as they go near the exchange, exchange will tell them that my ID is this, I have been manufactured in this particular time, I was installed by this, my maintenance engineer did this work on me. It's so wonderful, isn't it? So fundamentally what is happening? Today we are talking only about a human being interacting with a web page, correct? Now you are talking about a physical entity interacting with another physical entity. So it need not necessarily be a human being. Now you understand how the industry 4.0 is going to function. That is, when a lorry walks through a gate, they know that this particular lorry is actually carrying this particular cargo. Because the cargo for the lorry has already been entered into some place, and when the lorry goes through that gate, the information is transmitted to make it to understand that, correct? Again, the reason why I was telling all these things to you is very simple reason. Today you make a lot of money making web pages, right? Websites you make, web pages you make, all kinds of stuff you make, correct? It's wonderful. You make a lot of money. But do you think you can continue making that money? Because of a very simple reason. Tomorrow, if there is going to be 1 million of these devices, suppose if KSRTC is going to put this beacon into all their buses, do you think that we can sit down and make a web page for all the 30,000 or 20,000 buses which are there? Or suppose if the museum or the zoo, the museum has got so many artifacts, and I go there and put a beacon on every one of them. So if it is a Buddha statue which is half broken, I go near it, and then it communicates with my system, and the Buddha statue tells me that I am from this age, BC this year, and it was discovered here, and blah, 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 everything, isn't it? Is it possible for me to actually sit and code for all this? No, it is not possible. It is definitely not possible. Because the amount of manpower that is required to create this code and put the information into it is humongous. So it is not possible. Suppose if I create, how will I make it possible? Suppose if I create an intelligent system by which when I get the thing, I get the photo of this statue. So the easiest thing what you can do is what? I will send the photo to Google Map, Google will search, and somebody must have already written something about it, correct? It will fetch that and come and give it to me, right? So my program is going to be intelligent enough to assimilate this intelligence into it. So all I'm trying to say is this: think a little differently. You will find out so many solutions, so many possibilities by which we can use these existing things and take us to the next level. So I would definitely request all of you to start reading about physical web. And one of the things about beacons is that, suppose if I have a small beacon and if my beacon is programmed to emit a specific ID, with this probably you can use every, say, every minute, a specific ID I'm going to create, and it is going to transmit. And I'm going to keep the beacon here. How do I use it? And as a boss, he is telling me that I should be in the office at 10:30 in the morning, right? So when I walk into the office, the beacon will contact me, and then it will go into the attendance system automatically and say that I'm here, right? How will I ensure that I'm here? By having the unique ID on that particular time, isn't it? Anyway, I think you people have to read a little more about it. So you will understand that the world is not going to be the same in the next few years. In the next few years, as the RFID took over the world, you know how much time did the RFID take to take over the world? Practically a couple of years, right? Not even a couple of years, less than that. It is faster than that. This beacon is going to take over the world. So we have huge opportunity there. As IT companies, we have phenomenally huge opportunities there to create applications for this, to create automated systems for this. All right? Coming back, do you know that the apps business, Android apps, is dead? And Google has actually killed it? How many of you are aware of that? Nobody knows about it? Actually, apps is a very, very horrendous thing to write, isn't it? Because every Android application, Android OS in different phones, they all behave differently. So if I write an app in the conventional app business, I have to test in almost every phone to make sure that it happens, correct? Today, how many of you know that the Flipkart sends you a different app? How many of you downloaded a different app? That app is written in something which is called progressive web application. Because Google found that it is no longer possible for creating such a huge amounts of application by writing the conventional manner. So they have come out with the methodology of progressive web application, which will completely replace all the apps into the new platform. All right? This is another thing, because what I have written here is actually for you guys to go back home and start reading. There is no way out. You have to read. The next one is, we all talk about cloud computing. I'm a person who do not believe in cloud computing. I personally do not believe in cloud computing. I personally believe, I may be wrong, but I personally believe that Microsoft, Amazon, and other people are pushing cloud computing only because those people have already invested billions of dollars into creating huge data centers. That is the only reason. This is my opinion. Why should I, with an 8 octa-core processor, mobile phone in my hand, send the data to a cloud to get it computed and send it back to me? Do you think I'm mad? No, I'm not. I would rather use the processing capability of the end device to carry out the operation rather than sending it to the cloud and using somebody else's program, right? So that is called edge computing. So we need to start moving towards creating a large number of edge computing systems because of several reasons. Another reason why these biggies or the telecom companies, all of them are promoting cloud computing is only one reason. What is it? What is the reason? They make money from data. Next generation revenue model for the telecom companies is not voice. Reliance Jio has already realized it. So that is why they have even taken the voice into data sector. It is only data. And data is going to be at least probably 100 times, or maybe already I think it is more than the voice. I don't know. Probably in another 3 to 4 years time, the data volume will be at least 100 times more than that of the voice. For a simple reason that IOT is going to be very, very prevalent. And as I talked about, the physical web is going to be very, very prevalent. No, physical web, again, I want to come back to it. Ladies and gentlemen, I really want you people to go deep into two things. One is the opportunities that open out to you from the physical web concept. The second thing, I want you people to seriously look at what? Progressive web application. All right? Please do not forget these two things. Even if you forget everything what I said in the evening, it's very good, but please don't forget these two things. And then the second one is that the distributed system is going to come back. Because now, the process, see, look at the end of the day, where whatever that you do, it is equated to a cost, correct? Suppose if I want to do something, it is going to cost me 10 rupees to do something, or it is going to give me 100 rupees to do something, and how much is going to returns out of it, right? So when my total processing systems are going to become cheaper and cheaper and cheaper by the day, I am not going to depend on a server farm or some other system to do my processing. Rather, I will push all the processing to my localized systems. Okay? So localized processing is going to be their real thing. This one more thing that we also work, as I told you, we work on multitudes of technologies. One of the technologies that we work is on real-time computing. Today, even if you talk about, probably some of you must be using, bulk data processing and things like that, but they are not real-time. Most of them are batch processing. So it's again another idea which I want to put it into your head, that the coming generation is for real-time computing and real-time processing. How do we do that? How do we move forward? Please start thinking about it as well, right? Because I don't think this is a platform for me to talk about it. And the last one, as I said, because of all these technologies, Industry 4.0 is going to take place, and according to the prediction, Industry 4.0 is going to be bigger than the entire industrial revolution which happened in this world. And already working committees and groups have already been formed in Germany, because it has started in Germany and is already talking about it. So please take whatever I have been talking all this time with an inclination to know more about it, because it is going to affect, because you're all very young people. The prediction is that by 2030, we are going to have cerebral data transmission. By the time probably I will be gone, but you are not going to be very old. You're going to be very young. So I'm just going to stop here, and now the house can ask me any question. Yeah.
So usually, if there's a new technology, we start with a small hello world. How does one start IoT? And does that person need to have a prerequisite of big data or business intelligence for processing that data? Or is it just streaming of data? How does one get started with the simplest of IoT sitting at home?
Wonderful question. The simplest way to start IoT is to go home today. Like one of our engineering college teachers, used to say that, try to go home today itself and read page number 43. So try to go home today itself and read about IoT. That is the best way to start. One thing I have request to all of you, my friends, my young friends, is that please dedicate at least 2 to 3 hours every day, minimum, to read. Because you are in a knowledge society, and if you do not have knowledge, then you are not in the society. And unfortunately or fortunately, you're all called knowledge worker, right? Do you have really that knowledge to be called a knowledge worker? You have to answer it. I don't have to answer it. You have to answer it. So every day you stand in front of the mirror and ask this question, am I a knowledge worker? So if you want to answer the question, 3 hours minimum every day. And the simplest IoT thing you can do is to write a small program, as I told before, in your thing to get a GPS location. When you are 20 kilometers, you can get a GPS radius. From your laptop in your house or your mobile, probably your mother's mobile phone in the house, you send a signal to a wireless connecting. The wireless connect to a. You can buy all those wireless receivers and put a contactor or a relay and start your geyser. All right? That's the simplest of IoT. And multiply this to several houses. Give this program to 100 of your friends. All right? So let all of them have this so that you have an Internet of Things. And then you get information from all these people whether their geysers are on or off. Correct? Very simple example. Very, very simple example. Try and do that. Then you do the next. And Internet of Things actually starts from sensors, local management systems, rule systems where the rules are impressed on what to do things, communication systems, end user management systems, that is you have a mobile based management system or an interface system or a map based management system or things like that. You have central storage systems if it is necessary, or we have actually created, one of the technologies that we have created is a distributed storage system. That is, I can actually distribute whatever information that I have in multiple locations, provided they agree to take in my data, and with adequate redundancy. That is, whatever data I generate, suppose if 5 of us are forming a team, and we say that we have a redundancy 3, that means the data will be available in my system and any other 2 systems. And then we write programs in such a way that even if your system is off, whatever data that is not put into your system is put in another system. So when it is on, probably you will synchronize it, or you will probably create a tab on where you put the data. Yeah, pardon. One. Yes.
How do you start testing that?
How do you? Testing the sensors. See, you take any illumination sensor, all right? Depending on the illumination level, you can easily manage your circuits to give you a 0 to 5 volt output. And 0 to 5 volt output, or even probably 0 to 3 volt output, I can directly put into a microcontroller. I mean, 0 to 5 volt may not be possible in some microcontrollers, but 0 to 3.1 is something which most of the microcontrollers tolerate. Put it as an analog input to a microcontroller, and then you get an output. Simple. Very simple.
How do you keep on testing a sensor like that?
As many sensors you connect.
One.
Yeah.
Increasing the number of sensors.
All right. Yeah.
It fully.
See, fundamentally, when you talk about a sensor, you should ask the question, what does the sensor do? All right? It can be a pressure sensor, it can be a voltage sensor, it can be a temperature sensor, it can be anything. Let it be a temperature sensor. Then how do I test the temperature sensor? By varying its input. Correct. And what is the input to the temperature sensor? Is the temperature. So I vary the temperature and I see how's the output which is coming from the system. That's it. That's the only way to test. I cannot change the voltages going into my microcontroller and say that my temperature controller is working. The real scenario has to be there for a sensor to be tested. So that is why we buy sensors from reputed manufacturers, that we know that the sensor is already tested and calibrated.
Okay.
We buy a sensor from a reputed manufacturer so that we know that the sensor is already tested and calibrated. We do. For a particular temperature, we know that according to the graph, it is supposed to give a particular voltage, and we say that the particular voltage is coming. And if it is, we want to double check it, we raise it to some particular level and see that it is coming. And we do a random statistical check. That's enough. Because another thing, I'll tell you, for example, I have put in a temperature sensor in a, say, at Ernakulam. All right. In my ATM, I got a temperature sensor. And I've already installed it and I have not tested it. So how do I know that it works fine? A very simple thing. I switch off the air conditioner, or forget it, even if it's outside. I look into the Google map to find out what is my local temperature. And I correlate the local temperature with the temperature reading which I have taken. Then I know that it's working. See, that is real Internet of Things, because you are actually going into something completely unconnected to gather the information and then correlating with whatever you have in front of you. Yes? Yes, please. Uh, Security for IoT is the most difficult thing today. Let me tell you that. If somebody can actually specialize in security on Internet of Things, that he is going to be a very rich man. Security in IoT is a very difficult thing because of two reasons. Do you know that if you go and hack into anybody's computer and you put admin and admin as password, there is a possibility of 70% that you will get through? So people do all kinds of stupid things. You know, they don't care about the security and they want the thing to be secure. Like I was talking to my friend about DDNS. You know, it is very easy to get into the system. But there are methods by which we can stop it. Security by itself, possibly, you will take about a couple of years to get into. So, but if you start today and you're very serious about it, possibly in about 6 months, I think you can be an expert on it to some level. But today, security is a problem with Internet of Things. Yes. Absolutely. See, client side for processing is that one is that I am disrespecting whatever I have in my hand, isn't it? Sorry, you said client side for processing. Yes. You will build in your program checks and balances for that. See, you are not going to just allow him to do anything he wants, right? You are going to build in checks and balances for that. Checks and balances are part of your security system. See, security, if you define it, you think that security is only infringing into something. No. When I am putting a database management system, if I put a data and the data gets validated and come back, that is also security part. It's part of the security, correct? So you will put systems and processes and checks and balances there so that people will not be able to get it. Yeah. See, it depends on, see, again, who is manipulating it? End user is manipulating it, right? How will you get affected at the other end? Only when the end user sends it to the other end. Correct? You will stop it there. You cannot stop. Suppose if I send something to your machine and you are doing everything in that, can I stop it? I cannot stop it.
If they manipulate in their end, it can affect the security, right?
That is why I said, you know, you don't write programs with an open-ended security, especially if you are going to send data for processing. When you send data for processing, you will have checks and balances built in. So you cannot do that. You cannot just send an open-ended thing so that anybody can manipulate and do something and send it across. No, it is not possible. You will not write a program like that. As a programmer, you will never write it. Correct? There may be chances. So you are smarter than him. So when you are sending the process data back, you will do a checks and balances there. There are many ways of doing it. Simple thing is you use your hashtags and things like that, right?
Drive. So what happened is it calculated some 10 miles extra with the GPS. Initially, I thought it was the driver did something in his app, but when I complained, they told that it's their mistake. So that's why I asked the question actually.
This is a problem of when we have too many people like that in this. So we may have to be careful there. Yes. Yes. You want the mic?
So I have a couple of questions. So first one is, I would like to understand what's the difference between a typical web app, like the modern web app versus the progressive web app.
To be very frank, as I told in the beginning, I'm not a programmer. There is a significant difference because, progressive web app is basically a web application which can run in any, in Google web browser, in any Android OS, stipulated by the web app. Whereas when you write a simple Android app, you will have to, because LG's Android is different from this thing.
What I learned that, or at least in my perspective, I'm as a programmer. Uh, Android or Apple already provides a lot of tools to make sure that the app works across multiple platforms. And even if it is a progressive, or I mean, I would say web app, the browser capabilities of the uh, each vendor, whoever between
No,
web app as well.
My request to you is to read a little more about progressive web app, because then possibly you will be able to answer the question yourself, because I am not technically qualified to answer this question. No, I do not have. So I cannot answer this question.
Contradicting, because we develop apps which work across the platforms. We develop web apps as well which work across the platform. So we know what exactly it takes to make sure that it works across and the issues we face. We have a lot of analytic tools or logs or crash logs. We collect and improve the experience on each each phones. So we already have set of tools, but what I learned that Google introduced a concept of instant app last year, which would instantly open an app without having the Android thing built in the platform. I mean, as an app, but rather it could be a web page. For example, if you show an ad from Flipkart, you can just tap on that offer and go directly to the web page without installing an app. So what I learned that Google's strong foundation with the web technologies is one of their core competency, and I would say in terms of the development tools, maybe they don't really own the stack. In terms of Java, they are using Java. They have a lot of gigs with Eclipse and Android Studio, but nothing really taking off. I mean, it's still painful to develop a lot of things, but they have pretty strong experience with the web technology. So that could be one of the reasons. That the same pain points you talked about would be happen in a web app as well. So, but I could not understand what exactly a progressive web app versus a typical web app.
Yes, if you send me your email address, and I can send you a few articles tomorrow describing the differences. See, one thing is for certain, that we need to move out of restrictions. We cannot be confined by restrictions. An app is fairly restrictive in many ways. So progressive web apps actually has come out with so many facilities in it by which those restrictions can be overcome. To give you a lot more insight into it, if you can give me your email address, and I can send you a few links.
Related to the edge computing part.
Yes.
I really don't know what exactly is edge computing, but I slightly, I was doubtful, like we can completely avoid the word cloud, because there are a lot of as I'm not sure if including the IoT projects we work with, we connect the sensors with a lot of large number of sensors to the cloud using the streaming services like Amazon Kinesis or Microsoft streaming services. So this would help us to actually scale to a large number of customers. But on the other hand, when we talk about a client edge computing, I want to learn more about what exactly we can achieve edge computing, or the limitations with it. Especially when you have a lot of historical data. For example, you have years of data collected from IoT, and if you use maybe machine learning or the analytics algorithms to pull out the data, so which I'm not sure if it's really possible to do with edge computing, and we can completely avoid cloud computing.
What you're talking is, there are two things to it. I think you're have a little overlap between two things. One is you're talking about operating a system. All right. So when I want to operate certain things, I need to do some computing, and which I can do it in the local machines. The second part that you have talked about is historical data. I can always send a historical data to some data center to be stored. There I don't do any computing. I only do storage. If I want to do computing, I can always pull out the data back into my system and I can do the programming wherever I want to do the program to run. So it is an approach that you should take. See, let me tell you, whatever I told is my very personal opinion. Amazon, Microsoft, and others. See, for example, Microsoft, if you really look at IoT business they're talking about, is purely programmer-driven business. Microsoft cannot think beyond programmers. Microsoft cannot think beyond programming. Amazon has invested humongous amounts on data centers. I don't think they would ever want to do anything other than using their data centers to somebody else. So as we look at it, we need to look at alternatives. At the end of the day, we need to create value for our customers. Is it necessary for me to, like for example, the Philips light to be switched on? Should I really send it to Philips Cloud to get it processed and the Philips Cloud communicating with my lamp to switch it on? It is not required. Definitely not required. And I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, in my office, we are actually setting up a complete experimentation and experience of the IoT systems. It should be ready in about probably another 2 to 3 weeks' time. So I'll just leave my email address here. My next slide would got the email address and my telephone number in this. If anybody is interested to really have an experience with IoT and want to know more about IoT systems, you're free to come and talk to us. And we are not going to hide any technologies from you. Don't worry about it, because I think we have reached the saturation stage, which is a little above that. And at the same time, we also would like to enable as many people as possible so that they can also find, because today, none of you is a competition from anybody else for a very simple reason that the market is going to be so huge. It is really, 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 really huge. We can have another 1,000 companies and still all of them will make money. So competition is ruled out. So let us make a community by which we can actually help each other to go deep into technology and create technology products. So for that, any help is required. You're most welcome. Yeah.
Excuse me, sorry, I have not finished. So it was
right, let him, yeah.
We haven't finished. So first thing is that there are a lot of things you can in a box.
Yeah.
For example, if you look at our iPhone, the machine learning algorithms to classify your photos and so many things are actually happening within the. But when it talks about a phone or a small box, it is not something we can, pull out a lot of data and compute it on an edge, really. So maybe there where we have the difference of using cloud or different technologies, or need a cloud system which can be processed with. But I would afraid to say that the current battery technology or the boxes we have in hand, it is not really sufficient to do a large amount of processing capabilities, at least at this point. And when it comes to huge amount of data, it is really hard for us to track. For example, if you have maybe 100 or 100 sensors within a room, I hope the growth in IoT will take us to that point where you have sensors everywhere at home, which will nearly make it impossible for us to calculate everything within the phone. So
yeah, I'll come to you. That's a very good question that you asked me. What happens when you have hundreds of sensors in a particular room? Again, I told you, ladies and gentlemen, you need to start thinking differently. Should I really process all the 100 data together? Suppose my computer is extremely fast. For it, 1 millisecond is a huge amount of time. So 100 sensors into my mobile phone is no big deal, let me tell you. But if there is 10,000 sensors, can I use with instantly, for your information, we used Atom board to do the entire heavy lifting. We do image analysis, we do sound analysis. Actually, I can put about 4 microphones in this room, and I can tell you how many people are there in this room. I can tell you what is happening in this room, because we do the mood analysis through the spectrum analysis. I don't know how many of you have done anything on fast Fourier transforms. Okay, wow, very good, excellent. Fast Fourier transform analysis, if you know it, you can run through it and you can actually find out how many people are in this room and what exactly is happening in this room. So having said that, it is not necessary for me to process all the information in one shot. We can actually change it and space it and do things. All right? So I hope I have answered your question. You know, I definitely feel that it will be very nice if you can go a little more deep into, you know, in my company, I have one serious issue. Sometimes I ask people, what did you do? They say that, I mean, sometimes the people don't come to office for a couple of days. And I said, where did you go? No, I was at home, sir. I said, oh, what happened? No, I didn't feel like coming to the office. I said, why? Wonderful. So what did you do? No, I sat and read. That's wonderful. That's enough. If people sit and read, that's enough for us. So if anybody works in a company, in our company, you will read at least for 4 hours a day. So, you know, that's a mandatory thing. If you don't read for 4 hours a day, you don't work for us. So that is mandatory. So I don't know how many of you would ever think of joining a company like us. You don't even have to come to office. That's the more beautiful part of it. And I have people who work in the company who will work only in the night. My CTO, I think I have to take him to a hotel to have a talk with him. So, you know, because he works only in the night. A couple of guys who will work only from afternoon 12 o'clock to night 12 o'clock. So we have all kinds of crazy people because we do crazy things. And I feel that only if you think in a crazy manner, you will be able to find solutions. You know, if you're going to think in a conventional manner, in a very straightforward manner, in a very so-called logical step-by-step manner, you will not find solutions. I suppose you understood what I said. All right, let's get moving. Yes.
Progressive web page and the IoT, how did you link that?
Progressive web app is basically for, see, for example, if you look at webyfy.com, if you can type it. Or forget it, forget it. Actually, I have not put much in the website. We have practically nothing in the website. Progressive web app is, suppose if you want to control the light and or control a machine sitting somewhere. I can create a progressive web app and then I can do that. Otherwise, I need to create a normal app. I can even create a web page to do that. All right. Progressive web app gives me an additional facility of storage of data within my system itself. Whereas web applications, to the best of my knowledge, whether I'm right or wrong, I don't know, will not give you so much of facility to access the systems in your own mobile or your computer. Whereas progressive web app actually gives you a lot more facility to do that. That is the best of my knowledge. Again, I'm saying I'm not qualified to answer this question. Yeah, I have to. But unfortunately, my domain is not programming. My domain is not creating technologies. My domain is something different. My domain is when you say that you have a technology like this, my domain is to tell you where all it can be applicable. So unfortunately, 35 years in the industry, working world over, working with at least a dozen multinationals and being a consultant to many companies, I don't want to go back into be a programmer, okay?
That's it.
Thank you.
If you want any other clarifications, you can contact him after the session.
Thank you so much, and it's been really, really kind of all of you to have, to have gone through this. And I know that it has not been very easy for you to sit there and listen to this awfully boring things like, that new technology and new approaches and all that. And as a closing sentence, I request all of you to seriously take the challenges that you are going to face in the coming years. Thank you very much. And if anybody wants any help, you're most welcome to contact us, and we don't have any IP problems. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was actually a session to actually get in touch with IoT and break your eyes with IoT. So I think the session has really served the purpose. And thank you so much, Mr. Vijay, for sparing your time and putting your efforts to prepare for the session, and as well as for your patient clearing of all the doubts. So as a token of the session, I invite Mr. Deepu Esnath, the Managing Director of FAYA, to hand over a certificate to him.
it's actually my privilege to give you this. So, thank you, Vijay Kumar, for coming down from Kochi, and oh, you were in Trivandrum itself, right? Okay. And taking an informative session, and as to explain it, Vijay, this was just an introductory session to IoT, and it is not just to go in. We never told him that he has to go into the details of the program to a programmer level. It is just an getting connected with IoT. What exactly is currently happening and what is the future, and he was able to clearly share it from his experience. Thanks a lot.
I invite the Poteti Committee of the Month, Mr. Atul and Arun, to present a memento to the speaker. Okay, so that's it for the day. I thank the speaker once again for such an awesome session, and the set of participants. You were really a vibrant set of participants, and thank you so much for sparing your time and coming over for the session. Actually, Fire Potati it's about building a group of like-minded people. So and it's all about networking or getting connected with people with whom you can share your ideas. So maybe you can use this time to build your own network of your group of people, and if you have any particular technology, or if you have any particular topic which you would like to go through, or which you would like to discuss, you can just share it with us, so that we'll consider it for the next Fire Potati sessions. And we'll be sending you a feedback mail request, so you may please give us your genuine opinion, so that we'll be able to make the sessions, the upcoming sessions more better. And to keep up with the next or the upcoming Fire Potati sessions, you can actually subscribe to our Facebook page, Fire Corporation, or else you can also join our technology group. It's called as Techno Geeks. So there you can find a bunch of technology enthusiasts, and they'll be always posting or discussing about the latest trends and updates in the technology. So you can keep at par with the technology updates. So please do join Techno Geeks, and thank you so much for coming. So have a nice day. Thank you.